Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Hira, a final year PhD student at Oxford, and it's a new channel I've made. We talk about PhD applications and interviews. I talk about PhD life and research, etc. So if any of that is interesting to you, then please do subscribe because I think you'll like the content quite a lot. So in this video, we're going to talk about rejections from university. I know it's PhD admission season, so you're going to be hearing back. Hopefully you hear back and get an acceptance, but part of the admissions process is to get a few rejections. So we'll talk about what you can do if your university application is rejected, how to cope with PhD rejections, not just mentally and emotionally, but also practically, how to decide your next course of action. And I will also talk about my experience with rejections. I've had my fair share, and so hopefully that can give you some sort of solace and a bit of inspiration, and also, just some comfort knowing that, I still got to Oxford after a lot of rejections, so you can as well. So keep watching. So a little bit about my story, right? It might actually come as a surprise to a lot of people, which was that I applied to a lot of different PhD programs and I was rejected from all of them, except the one at Oxford, right? I was rejected from Cambridge, ICR, the Institute of Cancer Research in London. The year before, I actually applied to a master's at Oxford and Cambridge, and I got in both places, but I did not get any funding from the department because I was an international student and funding comes so rarely for international students. It's so difficult, and I'll make another video on that and just the frustrating experience and what you can do to actually find funding. But yeah, anyway, so I had to turn those places down, so that, that was another traumatic experience. But, guys, things always happen for the best. I really deeply believe that. And what happened was I ended up then getting a master's scholarship at UCL. I cried on the day I got that scholarship, not out of happiness, but because I did not want to go to UCL. I wanted to go to Oxford or Cambridge, right? So it was very hard for me. In hindsight, that was literally the best thing that happened, because at UCL, I ended up learning about cancer epigenetics and bioinformatics, right? Both of these things I had not learned about at undergraduate. And then because of this experience, I could be so competitive for my PhD application. And I ended up doing bioinformatics in an epigenetics lab in Oxford, right? So I would have never found this lab or even been able to apply if I hadn't gone through UCL and what that course offered, right? It's such a cliche, right? But rejection is just redirection, and redirection to where you're meant to be in life. So just stay kind of motivated. Don't lose hope at all. So let's first talk about the emotional side of things, because I think you really have to process this information before you decide on what you want to do next. And a lot of people might tell you, it's okay, get over it, blah blah blah, but take your time if you need, cry and scream, whatever. Hopefully not at other people, but just release your frustration. It is a sad, and it's also quite frustrating experience, but there's a lot that rejection can teach you. My number one tip is please don't let it affect your self-esteem, because a lot of times university rejections have nothing to do with how smart you are, especially for PhD programs. A lot of times it's about what the supervisors think will be the person that fits well into this program, and whether your interests and your career goals, etc., actually align, whether you would actually benefit from this. And so I remember one time I applied to this program at the Institute of Cancer Research, and the supervisor told me quite clearly, and he was like, we're not selecting the best person to join our lab. We're actually selecting someone who will fit in well. and who will be the most excited about this project. And I think that was the moment when I knew that I was not going to get on, because I might have been a top candidate, but during the interview process and the 2 days that we were there for interviews, I actually didn't show much interest. And it was actually quite clear from my application, from my interview, the kind of questions I was asking, the sort of discussion I was having with the supervisor, that I was just applying to this program because it was kind of like my last resort, and it was not my top choice. I didn't want to be there. I hated the department the moment I walked in. I just didn't like the vibe. I didn't feel at home. And that's also why it's really important for you to visit your university or your department to see if you actually like the vibe. And so that showed in my interviews, and they sussed it out. And so they didn't select me, and I was not surprised to receive that rejection. So just to drive the point home, you being rejected has nothing to do with your value and your self-worth and how smart you are or how good you are or how successful you'll be. It's none of those things, and just keep that in mind. Don't let it affect your self-esteem. The fact that you even applied, to a PhD program and you showed so much bravery and courage and to put yourself out there. Do you know how many people are not at Oxford because they were too scared to apply? I've met so many people who are absolutely amazing, but they thought they weren't Oxford material, and that's why they didn't apply. And I could see, if they tried, they would have gotten in. So the fact that you actually put yourself out there through a very grueling application and interview process, and for you to come out the other end is actually such a great thing. So even if you've gotten a rejection, just don't feel bad. You are still quite awesome. So what can you do to actually recover from this? As I said, take your time. Also do some self-care activities, hang out with your friends, your family, do things that take your mind off. And I know how difficult and exhausting PhD applications can be, so take a break if you need to, and just go on a holiday or stay at home, do nothing. Just try and do something other than think about your PhD applications and what you're going to do next, because you have to be in the right state of mind to actually make better decisions now on what you're going to do next. So just relax and take care of yourself. If you haven't watched my video on self-care already, then do that. I share a lot of tips on what to do if you're burnt out, which, a lot of people can get quite burnt out from PhD applications. So if you haven't watched that, do that, and you'll understand better how to really take care of yourself through this process. Right, so next steps, right? After your emotional and mental health has all been taken care of, what can you do now? I think the first thing to do is to clarify your thoughts. And what I mean by that is you need to really evaluate why it was that you applied to this program. I know when I got the rejections from Oxford and Cambridge, I realized that I applied because of prestige. I applied because it was that university. I was not really interested in that project. I wasn't clear on exactly what I wanted to do. What I really needed to do was spend a year at UCL doing the master's to really solidify what it was that I really, really wanted to do. And then that gives you the edge, right? I speak about that in my PhD personal statement writing videos, which you can also watch, and on my channel. And I talk about how you really need to show clarity and enthusiasm, right? So it has to be genuine. You can't really fake that. So you have to think about, why were you rejected? Could it be that deep down you're not that interested in this project? Sometimes we're lying to ourselves. So do think about, really internally, did you actually want to go there? Or what did you apply for other reasons? So one of the PhD programs I applied to at Cambridge was in pancreatic cancer, using mouse models. I can't believe I applied to that program, but again, it was because I was so desperate to just get a PhD. That's not the right way to do it, and now I realize why I got rejected from it was because I could not show any sort of actual in-depth knowledge or enthusiasm or excitement or curiosity about that particular project. And that's why I got rejected. Straight up rejection without an interview. And I get it, because I'm not a mouse person. I can't even have pets. I'm so squeamish. There's no way I was going to be able to deal with mice at all. So I'm so glad I didn't get that. So that's what I mean, really evaluate why you applied. Okay, so number 2 is, once you've evaluated why you actually applied to it, if you realize that you need more time to actually be clear on your goals and your interests, then take the time. If you realize that maybe you're not ready to do a PhD yet, or people might be saying that you are ready because you've got the skills, but maybe you've just not got that clarity of what exactly it is that you want to do your PhD in, then just take the time. Don't rush into it. It does not matter when you start your PhD. What does really matter is that you do your PhD in something that you really want to do, right? Just doing it to get the degree for the sake of the PhD, right? All of these are really horrible reasons to actually get into a PhD. And A, it's going to be very hard to get into a program you're not excited about. B, it's going to be very hard to stay in the program if you're not very excited about it. Number 3 is to understand that a lot of times applying to PhDs and interviewing is actually a skill. So maybe, you've got the educational background, you are talented, you've got the interest, all of that, but you might just need to polish your personal statement writing skills, your interview skills. And again, on this channel, I do make a lot of videos on that. But, the good thing is that skills can be acquired. And that's another reason why you shouldn't let anything affect your self-esteem, because, if your interview skills were bad and you froze up or whatever, that's okay, right? It is something that you can learn. I was very, very shy. I was not a confident speaker at all once upon a time, but it is a skill I've acquired. So, just spend some time practicing and you will get there. Also understand that there is some subjectivity in interviews, right? They are humans. There are 2 or 3 people. There's no way that subjectivity is not involved in interviews. And as much as universities and programs try and claim, that it's completely an objective process, it can't be, because at the end of the day, they are trying to predict whether you would do well in a PhD or not, given the little information that they already have and the 15 minutes they have with you, during an interaction. And so I always think that a lot of it is, kind of impressing them or charming them, which again, confidence is a skill that you can learn. Connecting with people is a skill you can learn. I always sort of joke a little bit in my interview, or I'll laugh, or I will make direct eye contact and try and connect with the interviewers and stuff like that. So I'll sort of try and win them over by essentially being charming. Obviously, if I have nothing to offer beyond that, I will not get selected. But if it was between 2 candidates who were equally talented and they have the same kind of educational background, I'm pretty sure they would try and go for the one who's, friendlier, nicer, things like that. So soft skills also do come into play, and that's why it's a skill you can develop, and we're going to talk a lot about that on our channel. What are you going to do from here? Do you want to apply again in the next round of applications? Do you love this project and this university so much that you would want to come here for sure? You can then go on to do apply for internships, 1-year research assistant jobs, and get more experience, and then apply to the same program again the next year. So that's one option you can do. The other option you can do is really evaluate your CV and think about what your skill set is best suited to. And maybe your first choice of a PhD program was actually not that suited to your skill set. Then it's okay to, apply a bit lower. For example, if you wanted to apply to Oxford and Cambridge and didn't get that, and then, you got a fully funded place at UCL, I think it's a really good option as well. Sometimes we underestimate these other, are slightly lower options. But if you go for a slightly lower option, then you might actually, it might be much easier for you to actually get a scholarship in those places, because you would then be the best of the second tier of universities, if you get what I mean. That's what I did for my master's, and I do not regret it at all. The third thing is, don't be desperate, because it shows. And when I started getting rejections from Cambridge, Oxford, ICR, blah, blah, and I started getting more and more desperate, and I think it showed in the applications and the interviews, because at this point I was just blindly applying to whatever PhD program I could actually apply to. I'm an international student, right? So I already had very few programs I was eligible to apply to, which was, it felt very discriminatory, but, that's how things were. So don't be desperate. You will get there eventually, and there is no point being desperate to get into a PhD program, because there are always so many other things and great uses that you can make of your time before the next round of applications, and you can go and do more research experience and learn a lot more. And so, it's okay if you didn't get it this year. You can apply again next year, and it's fine. There's nothing like, oh, you wasted a year of your life. You actually didn't, because you will learn a lot in this year, trust me. And in the meantime, practice. Get lots of feedback from your supervisors, talk to your, advisors, practice your interviews with them, learn how to make presentations, get better at doing all these things. Watch my YouTube channel, because we're going to talk about this a lot. Also, you can talk to me, and I'm happy to help you practice your interviews and look over your application, etc. I'm actually launching a business doing just that, and because my clients are going to be students, I don't want to set really high rates. So what I'm thinking of actually doing is, the first couple of months, I'm happy to accept whatever you're happy to tip me for those sessions. If you do want to chat to me, then reach out to me on Twitter, which is at Oxford_juggler, and I would love to help you. And I think the last thing is actually sometimes more important than you'd think, which is just to wait patiently. Because what happened to me was, I was top of the waiting list in Oxford. It felt like a rejection. It was really, really hard. But what I don't know why, I had this very, very strong gut feeling that I was going to get into Oxford. I just didn't know when. But I was just, I prayed a lot. If you are Muslim who is watching this, pray the Istikhara prayer. I would really recommend that, because that helps you to, you to be directed to wherever you're meant to go, and to the place that's best for you. So for anybody who's watching that's religious, just pray. It helped me so much, and it gave me so much comfort and hope. And I started getting dreams, and in every single dream I was in Oxford, and I was just so happy. And I knew I was gonna get in, but I didn't know when. And so it's just one of the biggest miracles of my life is that on the 1st of Ramadan, which is the holiest month in the Islamic calendar, the first thing I heard that day was that I got admitted. And it was because one person decided they didn't want to do a PhD but medicine instead, and I was first on the waiting list, and that's how I got in. And I was just like bawling my eyes out, and I was like, oh my gosh, the prayer worked, 1st of Ramadan, that's not a coincidence, etc. So it was just, it was incredible. And oh gosh, I'm getting emotional just talking about it. But just don't lose hope, and use the power of prayer. And the reason I'm sharing this is that sometimes, you just have to wait. Because during that 4 or 5 month period, what I didn't do was, I was not patient. I applied to all these places, and I was so desperate, and I was sending mindless PhD applications in programs I wasn't even interested in. But what I should have done was just waited, because I was gonna get it eventually. I could have made that whole 5 months much, much nicer for myself. So again, rejection is not the end of everything, and there are so many things you can do. And you know, if you really want to come to this place or this university, then you will. You can apply again next year. You can improve your CV. You can spend this year doing other cool things that give you an edge. You can polish your interview skills. You can you know, gain lots of experience, things like that. You can just have fun, right? And start a PhD a year later. There's no harm in that. So don't take rejection so deeply, and so you know, don't take it that badly. There's lots of cool things out there for you to do, and just be excited about trying to figure out what awesome things you're going to be involved in now that you've got new avenues that you can explore. So yeah, I hope this video was useful, and take care. Do leave me a thumbs up and a comment. It really supports the channel, and do subscribe if you aren't, and I would love to hear from you. Take care and good luck.